Welcome to Make It Plain from Make Plain Jesus Ministries, featuring Pastor James Bryan, where we take biblical truths in everyday situations and break them down to be as plain as possible. So, stay tuned and enjoy the broadcast.
Well, welcome everybody to this episode of Make It Plain. As always, we are so excited that you're joining us. And in this time that we're coming together, we want to make sure that we're going to give something to you that will uplift you, that would help you in your day-to-day life so that you can live it abundantly. And so today's episode is going to be wonderful because I have a surprise for you, but I'm going to wait about 5 or 10 seconds before I tell you what it is. Now, for those who are tuning in for the first time, I want to say welcome, especially to you. No matter where your background is or what you've listened to, this would be a blessing for you. And it doesn't even matter whether you've gone to church at all or regularly. It's not about that. We're really, from a Christian perspective, trying to give you things that will help you live your life and live it more abundantly. And so as you listen to other episodes, maybe you'll find that the topics vary. But today we have something that I think will really hit home for a lot of people. And so I'm going to encourage you, because I know it's going to be great, to make sure that even after you listen to this, that you share it with as many people as possible, because I think it will be a blessing to them and the way that they live their life. And so today in this episode, we're going to talk about the topic, trusting the Lord through suffering, trusting the Lord through suffering. And I have a wonderful special guest that I believe the Lord brought us together because I didn't know her beforehand, but all of a sudden her profile showed up. And I reached out to her and she graciously said, yes, I would love to be as part of the podcast. And I think she is raring to go, and she's going to just share some things from her heart that are wonderful. And so I'm going to introduce you now to Darcy Steiner. And I want you to say hello to Darcy. I know I can't hear you. I know I'm just joking with you. But Darcy, I want you to take a quick minute and just introduce yourself and just greet the audience.
Oh, thank you so much, James. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to share. So I am a Colorado native. I've been married to be 30 years this December.
Congratulations.
To my amazing husband, Mark. I call him Remarkable.
Good for you.
And I have 2 adult daughters, and I have a new grandbaby.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's actually 9 months old, but still new.
Right.
So my husband and I go over weekly, and we get to help take care of Riley Joy, and she is a joy.
Good.
And so that's a new fun thing for us in our life.
Good.
So.
And I'm sure she will keep you joyous because she'll be full of energy and activity. And I know you're going to love that.
Oh my gosh. It's like, it's different than when we raised our children because, we only see her weekly. So we see this jump of a change from week to week. And it's like, she can wave this week, And,
right.
so it's just kind of fun to be in this stage and be able to pour into this little girl, and
Good.
She pours into us.
Sure.
She doesn't even know it, but she does.
Sure. And so with that, you have I'm going to call it wonderful, fantastic story, but I know at times it wasn't wonderful and you still had to get through it. And I know you share some of this in your book, and we'll talk about that later. But, I want you to tell a bit about your story, your background, and in the midst of your before, during, and after discussion, just tell us about where you were in your relationship with God, if there was one at any point in time, and how did you handle all of that through everything that you were experiencing?
Sure. Okay, so let's go back to the year. Maybe some of the listeners weren't even born yet, but we're going to go back a ways. We'll go back to 1999.
Okay.
And so my kids were 5, newly 5 and 2.5. And I it was before Christmas, and we wanted to listen to Christmas music. So, of course, the music was upstairs,
Right.
and I was used to doing things really fast. You know, you're a mom, you're like in just you're just always moving fast.
Right.
So I ran up the stairs and got the CD and was running back down, and I slipped on a piece of paper.
Mm.
And I started tumbling down the stairs. And by the time I reached the bottom where the baby gate was, I hurtled over the baby gate.
Wow.
The baby gate stayed intact. Yes, they should make a new game in the Olympics, because I don't know how this happened, but
Right.
it did. And what ended up happening was I crashed into a wall, and then it flipped me and I face planted into the ground.
Wow.
So
Wow.
this injured my back.
Yeah.
So all I could do was just kind of lay there, and my 5-year-old came up to me above me and she said, "Mommy, are you okay?" And I answered, "Yes, Jenny, I'll be fine. You don't want to worry your kids, you know."
Mm-hmm. That's
My
right.
little 2.5-year-old just came and plopped down beside me. And I think she sensed something was wrong. I wasn't getting up. Mommy wasn't running around.
Wow.
Mommy was laying on the ground. And so they were very young, and I was young. I was 35. And what ended up happening was I spent more and more time in bed because of this injury, and actually became bedridden for
Wow.
2 years.
Oh my goodness.
And then in a wheelchair for 2.5 more years
In addition to the 2 years, there was another 2.5 years after.
that I was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
So my kids spent several years watching me be disabled and fight for my life. I'll delve a little deeper into what happened during the 2 years I was bedridden.
Sure.
I lost a lot of weight because when you're in pain, you don't eat. At least I didn't. I think most people, when we feel sick, we're hurting, we're not hungry.
Right.
And when you add months to that and then years to that, you lose weight. So I was at a critical weight where my doctor was very concerned that if I kept losing weight, I was going to lose my life.
Mm. Mm.
So there was that. And then also, in addition to my back pain, I had already had fibromyalgia.
Oh my.
And so I had muscle pain. And then I developed a nerve pain disorder called complex regional pain syndrome.
Okay.
It's you've not heard of it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, let me explain a little bit what that is. So it's nerve pain where even a simple touch to your skin just drives you over in pain. Like, it is just so painful. So I could not be touched.
Wow.
And when you have little kids,
Yeah.
and I'm a young wife, and my husband
Right.
and my kids could not touch me hardly.
Wow. So
Now,
so that means that you could not even give him a hug. You couldn't do any of that, could you?
no.
Wow.
What I could do, so when my daughters would fall asleep and they weren't moving and trying to jump on me, I would lay next to them. So we'd have them fall asleep on the bed so I could be near them. And then I'd cuddle up next to them so
Mm.
that we could have that. Or if they were going to be still watching a movie, they'd lay in the recliner next to me.
Mhm.
And I would just endure the pain to be close to them. So we still interacted. They would climb onto the bed,
Mhm.
and I would endure some of the pain of that movement, that kind of thing. But they brought up their little animals, and we would play animals,
Right.
on the bed, and we'd play I Spy. I remember playing I Spy a lot. making up games and singing songs, and my kids would color on the bed. And so there was still interaction. It was just different.
Right.
And
so if I could, so how was your husband dealing with all this?
it's a great question. It was hard on him. And we were leaders in our church. We had significant roles, and we have both served in the full-time ministry.
Okay.
So we were trying to help a lot of people, and we could no longer do that because he had to focus on still supporting us. And now he had mommy responsibilities as well as daddy responsibilities.
Right.
So thankfully, and I think God had planned this, he knew ahead. Mark had been let go from a corporate job. And so he began his own business about only a few weeks prior.
Wow.
And so he had his own business.
Okay.
And so he would work with the kids playing in the basement, and then they'd come up and check on me and bring me food or water. And, my kids adapted pretty well.
Good.
The kids are adaptable. And so they didn't really know a different household. They didn't know that this was really abnormal because they were so young. We don't know that this isn't how life is supposed to be.
Right.
So they were happy, but yeah, Mark, there was a point where he was facing having to do life without his wife and raising these two kids by himself. And he began to gain some weight and grow a beard, which was really different for him because he's a runner. He still runs at 61.
Wow. Okay.
Every few days. And he's very fit. And he doesn't grow beards, but, and that's fine. It was just different for him. And he was depressed. And something that we both right now, he's actually doing some podcasts because he's having people come to him and ask him, what's it like to be a caregiver?
Okay.
And how do you deal with the suffering that you have? Because a lot of people don't pay attention to the caregiver. They look at me and they're like, oh gosh, you can't walk, you're suffering. But to Mark, they don't realize his life has been transformed. It's changed from what he thought,
Right.
And he has to deal with this. So yeah, it was a struggle with our faith, having been leaders in the church and now not having responsibility and feeling kind of worthless, feeling kind of useless.
And so that brings me to the next part of this. I'm sure you'll get into it also, but so did you begin to ask God, like, what's going on? And briefly tell me that, then I'll let you keep going with the rest of the story.
No, it's a great question, but I asked God, I said, why would you give me two kids and then not allow me to raise them? I asked that repeatedly. And I had this other feeling like, I don't want to be here. I don't know how I can go through another day. I don't know how I can get through another day. It was so painful, James. It was just not even day by day. It was moment by moment.
Wow.
Getting through moment by moment. And when you do that day after day, I prayed for God to take me. But I have this young family, and so I had dichotomous feelings, and I also begged him, please don't take me. So it depended on the day. Right. It depended on the hour. My prayers changed a lot because my emotions changed a lot. And I was also going through depression because I wanted nothing more than to interact with my family, and I felt like God took away the very thing that I desired the most. And isn't he supposed to give us good gifts? If he's a good God, doesn't he give us good things? So I really wrestled with that. And especially too, with my responsibilities being removed from the church, I felt like our ministry was going well. So why? There was just a lot of whys.
Mhm.
And I was very confused. And I still believed in God. However, something good that happened in my relationship with God during that time was because I wasn't doing, I learned more about being.
Mm.
I learned more to be than do. And God gives us faith to believe, right?
Right.
And so we can do that. And I didn't realize how much I had added the do's to the be's. So I was doing this for that person and that for that person. And I didn't mean to have my faith wrapped up around the do's, but I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And laying there in bed, I realized faith is much more simple than I've ever made it out to be.
Right.
It's simple belief, and it's all God requires. It's much more simple than I thought. And so all these things stripped away, anybody can believe.
Mhm.
And so that included me when I couldn't even lift myself or make it to the bathroom or reach to the side of the bed to get a pencil.
Mhm.
My brother calls this pencil faith because, yeah, because I couldn't reach for even a pencil. So I realized, but God still gave me the ability to know him and love him and believe in him, right? So my brother calls it pencil faith.
That's
That's
good.
and I
That's good.
realized that I had to be instead of do, and I still believed in him and
Okay.
loved him.
So let's take a moment and think about, so you've given us some of the ideas of the challenges you went through. Just tell me briefly about what a day in the life would have been for you during that phase of time. What was it like during that time period? Like from the time you woke up to the time you went to bed, was it just pain? Was it you wrestling with emotions? Was it, I want to do stuff? I mean, I'm sure it's all of those, but just give a little description what that was like
Hmm.
before you go further.
Hmm. I was in our bedroom, which was upstairs in a small bedroom, and I had a window that was by the bed that I was able to look out. For 2 years, I felt like I was in a prison.
Wow.
And I was very active before this. So I was in need. There were days where I was thirsty and I couldn't reach for the water bottle next to me.
Mhm.
You learn to do without a lot of things. It was severe pain
Mhm.
from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And even during the night, I couldn't sleep. You know, I was on a ton of medications. I was addicted to Oxycontin
Oh, wow.
and Xanax. I was addicted to both. That was not good.
Mhm. Right.
So I had, these addictions, and I couldn't help it because I needed more pain medication. And, there was a way that I got out of that
Okay.
later down the road. But my heart just ached to be with my family.
Mhm.
And, I dealt with having to use a commode by the bed.
Right.
I lost my sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do things because I'm very motivated.
Right. Right.
And so I wanted to participate. So it was dealing with the inability to even get my water bottle for myself.
Wow. So, so how did you get past, well, maybe not past, but through that time period? What came next? And tell us about that motivation pushing you further. a bit more?
It was motivation. That's a great way to reframe it or to frame it. I previously to the fall had applied to a nutrition program to get my master's degree because I just enjoyed nutrition and I wanted to learn more about it. So I had a stack of nutrition books on my desk that I wasn't able to get to for a couple of years because the pain was so intense. But by the third year, I was able to sit up in bed for about 5 minutes at first. And during those 5 minutes, I would read. And I read a paragraph at a time. And I came across this nutrition protein shake. And I asked my husband to make it. And it was one of the only things that I could eat that I enjoyed. And through that, I learned that drinking calories is easier than eating them. So I started drinking this daily. I looked forward to it. And it's what helped me not lose more weight.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And the amino acids, which I love talking about amino acids, but the amino acids went to my brain, helped my mood, which enabled me to lessen, my depression medication.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. And so after days of doing this, I got stronger. And in fact, there was one day I was sitting up downstairs. We had gotten a stair glide.
Okay, yes.
I was able to go down the stairs and I was sitting at the table and my little daughter, she was about 5. We were playing together at the table and she looked at my hand and saw this muscle between my thumb and my forefinger, that this was a bulge now instead of an indentation, instead of like a crater. And she said, "Mommy, you're getting better." And so she saw this tiny little muscle that she had obviously noticed before when we played, that it wasn't crater-like, there was a bulge now.
Okay.
And I had started getting some muscle mass back.
Good.
Because I was exercising. I was very motivated. I was exercising with 1 pound weights.
Oh, okay. That's
so
good.
I started very small, but was motivated to get better at this point for my family and beg God, I have a little bit of improvement here. Please carry me through to the next step. And the next step was pool therapy.
Okay.
My husband brought me to pool therapy twice a week. And that's where I learned to walk again.
In the pool. So
Yep.
you would have some assistance getting in and then
Yep.
she would walk you through and tell you to walk and it worked?
I had to be retrained how to walk because your brain forgets after a couple years. And that first step, I will always remember it as if it was yesterday.
Wow.
It was one of the best feelings in my life, putting one foot in front of the other. We take walking for granted.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Just, if you're listening, please thank God for the ability to walk.
Yes. Yeah.
Because when you can't, you don't realize all the things that happen for you, that you can go get something or go walk to the bathroom or, have your own independence.
Right.
Or just go for a walk and enjoy nature. Like that is a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It definitely is. And there are a lot of things like that we often don't think about and neglect it and say, well, I don't want to do this or do that. I talk to my wife often and just as a quick aside, when I go to any kind of establishment, whether it's a supermarket or shopping center or what have you, I always see people pull into the handicapped parking spots and they're not handicapped, right? And I always said, I won't do that. The reason is I thank God that I can actually walk. And so I don't mind walking the extra distance because one, it wasn't reserved for me, so I don't want to take advantage of that. But two, I'm thanking God that I can. There are other things that I have to get better at remembering and appreciating, and I think we all do. And so the point that you're making there is very profound.
Yeah, it's things that you never think about, you know? Like, I'll be honest, right now I'm losing hair.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out why I'm losing hair, but I was never
So for
really
those that are listening, I can't tell. She looks like her hair is fine. So
Well, I have less hair than I had a couple months ago, and we're trying to figure out why I'm losing hair, but I was never really grateful for my hair.
Mm,
And now I'm like, wow, I never thanked God once for my hair, but having hair is something to be grateful for. We just take God for granted so much, all the gifts that he's given us.
mhm, mhm.
So we just, thank him for the simplest of things.
Right. Right.
Yes.
And the part that you said a little bit ago about learning to be instead of wrapping it around doing, that's
Yeah.
profound. And I hope everyone who is listening heard her talk about that. I think that's something that we all need to make sure that we take in our everyday life because we are so active in so many different things. Um, but we think that because we're doing it, then we're doing everything we're supposed to do as far as being a good person, but more importantly, being a good Christian. And so it's really that being is so important that we need to really grasp that going forward.
I hope you have enjoyed this week's Make It Plain podcast. Join us again next week for the next part of the discussion.